You guys, here we are with writer director Craig Moss. He has a film coming out July 2nd called Let Us In. Let me give you the rundown. A spirited girl starts investigating the sudden disappearances of several missing teens in their small town. Realizing there might be something deeper happening, Emily might be up against forces she can't even imagine.
Right.
And here we are with Craig. How's it going today?
It's going well. And thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for stopping and talking to us. So, talk to me about Let Us In. How did this project come to be?
Well, I was looking to put together a film, and I had just did a sci-fi thriller that we shot in Ohio, and I really loved that genre. So I was looking to do something else, and I decided to research some things online, and I found a bunch of different urban legends. And one of them that seemed to sort of grab me was the Black Eyed Kids urban legend. Are you familiar with that? Have you heard of the
No,
Black Eyed
I
Kids?
guess I should have, but no.
Well, not really. I mean, it's kind of like an online viral thing. So it's big with the kids.
Mhm.
I'm an old guy, and here I am trying to like get in touch with the youngsters. But regardless, it was an interesting thing about these teenagers that wear these hoodies. They're pale, and they go up to people at their houses. Or there was a report of a group of these teenagers going up to someone that was in their car that was parked in a parking lot, and they knock on their window and they ask to be let in. And if you let them in, it's sort of this metaphor for them abducting and taking you.
Oh,
And
oh, oh,
and people,
yes, yes,
yeah, have you heard?
yes.
Yeah. So
Now, yeah.
people swear by it, claim that it's happened around the world. Um, but I just thought it was a really cool concept, and then just kind of created a story inspired by the Black Eyed Kids online presence
Mhm.
viral thing.
And this feels very Goosebumps. Uh,
Yeah,
was that kind of your intention? Is that what you were going for?
yeah. So in addition to the fact of finding this idea for a movie, um, I have, well, at the time, right now she's almost 15, but at the time we shot the film, she was almost 13. My daughter, who she's had a nice career as an actress. She's been in a bunch of films. She was on a series for 2 years that they just didn't renew this year. But we've worked together before, so I wanted to work with her again. And so I, this was a role that I thought would be perfect for her. So I kind of cast around that with a bunch of other great talented kids, and felt like this would be a really cool movie, especially in the space that I feel like it hasn't been exploited too much. And I thought there was time for another film for this younger demographic.
Yeah, and I find it very interesting that there really isn't uh enough of this type of content, or
Yeah,
because horror is something that everybody can connect to.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
and I was a huge fan of Goonies growing up, and it just seems like those films are few and far between. There aren't really many at all. So as you say, Goosebumps may be the closest thing to being that, but
mhm,
that's really about it for the most part. Obviously, Stranger Things is a huge hit on with the kids on Netflix, but
mhm,
as far as films, I mean, there's not too many.
yeah, there definitely needs to be more.
Yeah.
This is kind of a gate. You call this a gateway sci-fi
Yes.
thriller. Um,
Correct.
can you explain why? Can you explain
Um,
that?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. This film is basically for the younger teen set, um, where it's not your sort of slasher, horror. It's more, there are those scares, and there are those moments that are can be a little chilling, but it's not to that level of some of the more, say, hardcore thrillers or horror thrillers. This is a good film for younger kids to kind of get their feet wet into the genre and kind of get them through the door for them as they grow to get into the stuff that's a little more creepier and scarier.
Hmm. You okay? So when you and Joe Calero, is that how you pronounce
Yes,
his name? Okay.
Joe
When you
Calero. Yeah.
Yeah, when you guys were writing this, how did you know when it was too far, or like when you're dealing with any of the scares or things like that? Uh, how did you know when to be like, okay, we gotta pull back?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the first sort of layer was okay. Obviously, we're not doing anything, graphic. There's no, you know, blood or ripping guts out or cutting heads off or any of that stuff. I think it's a lot of the scares are more jump scares and a little more left to the imagination, but not entirely extreme in that respect. And I think we've also leveled it out with a little bit of humor, and these kids are very endearing to kind of help balance out some of the stuff that tends to get a little creepier.
Mm.
But I mean, I remember watching Scoo. I mean, it's a weird analogy, but I remember watching Scooby Doo when I was younger, and I don't know if you watched that
Are you kidding?
cartoon, but
I have
yeah.
all the seasons on Blu-ray. So
Okay. All right. Exactly. So, it's kids. I think, there are those moments of like in Scooby Doo where there was some scary moments, there was some creepy stuff, but it was always leveled out with a little bit of comedy and a little bit of, um, you know, of not to push things too far. So being able to have this group of, like in Scooby-Doo, this cast that was able to help you keep things grounded and not take it to this sort of scary dark place.
awesome. Yeah, I mean, like when Scooby and Shaggy would dress up as, say waiters or hairstylists or something
Right.
like that and trick the villain. Yeah. So, I mean, hey,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, give these kids credit. I mean, I think they can handle a certain amount of scariness and creepiness. I think that's allowed. I think, but it's just you just can't take it to that darker place.
well, you could, but
You
nightmares for
could,
days.
but I don't know. Yes, nightmares. I don't think parents would be too happy. I mean,
It's a nice
I
bait and switch. Uh,
exactly,
so,
exactly.
why was it important to have a female hero in this film?
Again, I haven't seen it that often. Like I thought it would be a cool thing to make it a female, and it just made it more interesting to me. Um, just a little more empowering, and I've just always been a fan of having female protagonists in film. Especially like action films, and I think that's like one of the cool things about this film too, is that there's some cool action moments and some confrontations and combat that goes on, and I think I just felt it would be a lot of fun for a 12-year-old girl to have to deal with this on her own. It just, to me, just made it more interesting.
And then you had Tobin Bell, who, you know, he's a
Love
legend.
him.
So was he fun to
Love
work with?
him. He's the nicest guy in the world. He was just such a sweet guy, very gracious, loved working with the kids. Very patient guy. Just a because you never know what you're going to get when you get people like that have had levels of fame and come onto your little set. You're doing this little independent film, and you just don't know. And so he couldn't have been nicer, and just I mean, obviously so talented, and just made things better.
Mm,
But I love Tobin, just a
aw-
great guy.
awesome. So
Yeah.
I guess my last question is, for kids who have graduated from Let Us In, or have gone through that and were like, that's cool. What other movies would you recommend if they like scary,
So
that are
once they watch Let Us In,
mm,
just go right to The Shining and The Omen. and they'll be fine.
Well, I was gonna say, high tension, but,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I don't. That's a great question because I think I don't know what other movies kind of fill that gap to get you to that next level in order to get to the movies that I just stated. So I think there's a lack of stuff. I mean, I think um, uh, you know as I said, I think like the next sort of level would be like a Stranger Things. Like I
mm,
think like watching that series to me seems like that sort of middle ground, and then take that next leap into the scarier stuff, I guess.
excellent. Or the
Yeah.
original Halloween. So, why
True.
not?
True. I mean,
It's a little
that's
PG-13, but,
right.
you know.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
All right.
Yes,
Well,
for sure.
listen, thank you so much for, chatting with us about your new film, Let Us In, and the best of luck to you on that release.
Thank you. Thank
Let
you
Us
so
In
much.
comes out on digital, on demand, July 2nd, 2021. And Craig Moss, it was a pleasure to talk to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, guys, and I hope we can do it again.
All right, man. Take care.
All right, cheers.